Hi friends, it's Lexa, and today we're going over my highly ambitious, definitely subject to change, April TBR. Words cannot express, okay, how freaking excited I am about April in all of my reading plans because we have not one, but two incredible readathons. So I want to talk to you about some of the books that I plan to / hopefully will get to in regards to both of these readathons, and that is the Magical Readathon and Realmathon. Now I am not attempting to explain the intricate details and all of the amazing hard work that goes into creating these readathons, so I will link down below the videos that are going to explain everything to you if you don't already know what they are. Now, I have done Realmathon before. I did it last year, so I'm a little bit more familiar with the workings of that and how it goes. However, this is my first year doing the Magical Readathon, and I have done my prep work. I'm sorry if you can hear a little bit of rat-a-tat-tatting in the background. Dory is eating, but it's this or she's just generally menacing around, so the sound of her eating is best, trust me. Yes, Magical Readathon, my first year. I have done my homework, but I am definitely still new to this. So the main things that I'm going to be focusing on for the Magical Readathon are the prompts I need for my calling, which I picked the Star Whisperer, which I believe that this is a new career / calling. I think that she said that. Don't quote me. But we'll go over the prompts that I have and what books that I think I'm gonna read for those. For Realmathon, I am on Team Enya, which is the fantasy team. I picked that because the majority of the books that I read are fantasy. The nice thing about Realmathon is that there are so many different prompts that you can pretty much, you can try to build your TBR around maximizing your points, but if you don't have a lot of time or energy to put into the readathon and you just want to be able to read whatever you want to read and then get some points with it and be able to connect with people, you can totally do that too. So I feel like having these two readathons together, it's gonna be perfect. But on top of that, I am also traveling for 2 weeks to go see my dad in Tampa, and I'm gonna see the Taylor Swift concert. I'm so excited. It's the first time I'm seeing her. I also got tickets to see her in Kansas City here in the summer. I can't fucking wait. But because of that, I'm hoping to really focus on Kindle books and audiobooks and some other physical TBR books that I need to read. We're gonna cover all of that as we get into it, so let's go ahead and do that. First, covering the books that I need to read for the Magical Readathon. As a Star Whisperer, Seeker, Shooter, no, that's not it. Whisperer. As a Star Whisperer, I have 5 classes that I need to take and pass, which means 5 prompts. The first prompt, super easy, match the book cover to what you are wearing. I will probably just do that in the moment and show you as I vlog, because I plan on vlogging at least a week's worth of each of these readathons. So I'll do that then, and I'll make my outfit match my book cover rather than the other way around. And that is for the class Art of Illusion. For astronomy, I need to read a book with 2 E's in the title. And this works perfectly because every time, it's kind of been like a tradition that I set up for just a tradition for myself. Every time that I go to visit my dad's, this started in the summer when I would go and visit him and take a couple of weeks off of work in high school. I would sit by the pool for the week or 2 that I was down there and read a whole series. It started with the Harry Potter series, but since I no longer support J.K. Rowling, we cut that off. We've been discovering new series. Last year, it was Mistborn. Ended up being my favorite series of all time, okay? So it's a little bit hard to follow that, but I'm feeling hopeful because the series that I want to read this year is the Raven Cycle. And this is perfect because both the Raven Boys and the Raven King have 2 E's in the title. So either one of those would work for this prompt, and I plan on reading that whole series while I'm there. The next class is Inscription, and that one is a book from my top shelf, and this is a little bit tricky, okay? Because I'm currently in the middle of completely redoing all of my books and shelves. I just bought new IKEA shelves. Half of my books are sitting in a stack on the floor. Half of them are on my IKEA shelf, but they're definitely not where they're gonna end up. But trying to stay true to this prompt, I went ahead and picked a book from the top shelf that I have on there right now, which was a little bit tricky because it was either series or, thankfully, when I first saw this, I was like, oh my god, I think all I have are series up there because I was trying to separate series. No, thankfully I had 1 row of random fantasy standalones. There is literally a tornado afoot. We cannot go outside. So the book that was on my top shelf that I am tentatively picking, I think, is going to be Road of the Lost by Nafisa Azad. Nafisa Azad wrote The Wild Ones, which last year was one of my favorite books of the year, probably one of my favorite books of all time. I loved The Wild Ones so much. I wish that more people read it and absolutely loved it because I just think that Nafisa Azad is incredible and I want to read everything that she writes. So That is this one. Do I know what this is about? No, but that is going to be a general theme. If you're new to this channel, if you're not, you know. You know, okay? I don't like knowing about books before I go into them. This just says, even the most powerful magic can't hide a secret forever. You won me over already, so I'm down. But I believe that this is YA and it's fantasy. The next class for the Magical Readathon is Lore, and that is a book with a map. He just tried to open the door with the handle. Now hear me out, I do not have a book with a map currently picked out. I don't think, but I know Brandon Sanderson and I know that he loves himself a map. And my hope is that I can either read Trust of the Emerald Sea, which was Secret Project number 1, or Secret Project number 2, of that which I do not know the title yet, during the month of April. And my guess would be that Brandon's gonna put a map. One moment, please. Sorry, he does this every time that I start to film for like the first 10 minutes I sit down to film. But normally I will just sit and pretend like I'm about to film for 10 minutes to let him get that out. But this is filmed last minute and I need to get through. So I think it's a pretty good guess that Brandon Sanderson's going to have a book with a map. But if neither one of those do, then I'll just read another fantasy book with a map. I read a lot of fantasy, so it works out. And the last class that I have to pass is Psionics and Divination. And that is clouds on the cover or in the title. This one I was a little bit worried about because I was like, I don't think I have a book that has clouds on the cover or in the title. But then, thankfully, I decided to go through my shelves, what is currently on my shelves, quickly flip through, and I remembered, I almost forgot, that for the Literally Dead book club for the month of March is, for the month of April, we're reading The Writing Retreat, and look at that. Those are some general clouds. They're not distinct, but that is a cloud. So this is perfect. This is not fantasy. It is thriller. But that's okay, I've got to read it anyway, so it works out. And it's gonna hit on the nose for this one, which I was real worried about. So I believe that that is it for what I need to hit on with the Magical Readathon. If there's more, I will tackle that as I learn. I'm a beginner. Next, let's talk about Realmathon. Now, I'm not gonna go through and add up what I think every single book is going to be as far as points-wise, because I am nothing if not a mood reader, and chances are this is not going to end up being my finalized TBR. I'm hoping that I will get to a lot of these books, but some of them are up in the air. So the main things I want to focus on are what are going to help me get bonus points in Realmathon. And those are a few different things. Number 1, reading my team genre, which is fantasy, and we're good there. The next one I really want to focus on is hybrid genre. Now, remember when I said I'd go into books not knowing a lot about them? That's gonna be tricky because I won't know if they are a hybrid genre, meaning that they combine elements from 2 different genres. So it could be a fantasy romance, it could be a fantasy mystery. I'm trying to think of examples that don't have fantasy, because it does not have to be from your team. It just has to be from 2 different genres, or what she classifies as genres. Cassidy does a much better job explaining all of this to you in the video I'll link below. The one that I think is going to cover this one and that I want to focus on is Alatsaway by Darcy Little Badger. I have been wanting to read this so much, and I have not only the audiobook on Libby through my library, but I also have the ebook. And since I'm traveling and I'm going to be reading like on the beach and by the pool a lot, Kindle is going to be best. The last time I went to my dad's, I brought a ton of books, and then my suitcase was overweight because I bought more books while I was there, and I didn't read any of them except for Mistborn. So I'm trying to hold back on bringing books, and since I know I'm gonna have to bring the entire Raven cycle, I don't want to bring many more physical books with me. So Kindle is gonna be perfect, audiobook's gonna be perfect as I'm on the plane and going through the airport, and this, I believe, I will correct myself if I'm wrong at the time, is a mixture of fantasy and like mystery thriller. And I believe that's all I know about this book. I thought I knew more. I went in confidently into that sentence thinking that I was just gonna find more information about this book in my head along the way. I don't have anything else to share with you other than that, but I have heard amazing things about this, and I think that it's young adult. Just a little bit of more information I can throw in there for you, and I believe that we have ace representation and indigenous representation, so awesome there. Which means that it's own voices, which also takes off a pretty like big... As I was saying that out loud, I realized that it sounded like I was only reading own voices because it was going to give me a higher point, and then I was like, that sounds awful, and that's not what I mean at all. I try to read own voices books quite often. My point was not that I was reading it because it would give me a lot of points, but just that that is an added bonus that I know that under one of the prompts, you do get points if it's an own voices book, which this one is. The next thing that gives you some bonus points in Realmathon, because it is Cassidy's Readathon, and she is all about indie and self-pub books, you get bonus points for reading an indie or self-pub book. Now I'm counting heavily on Kindle Unlimited for this. I've looked up 2 of the books that I was thinking about, and as far as I can tell, they're self-pub slash indie, but I'll do more in-depth research into that just to make sure before I count it if I decide to read one of these. The first one that I hear about a lot on TikTok is The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I know that this is the start to an epic fantasy series. I think that people compare it not directly to Sarah J. Maas, but like that kind of vibe for fantasy romance, but more epic and darker. And that is my shit. Plus, again, we have a hybrid book, so that's more bonus points. And this I can find on Kindle Unlimited, which is gonna be great. The other fantasy romance series that I was thinking about on Kindle Unlimited is Blood Mercy by Vela Roth. Again, I don't know anything about this, but I've heard a ton of people on BookTube talk about this, and the people who read it on BookTube seem to like fall in love with it. I've heard it takes a little bit more time to kind of get into, that the writing is just a little bit harder to kind of trudge through at first, but then once you're into it, it really sucks you in. So I'm in. And I've been wanting to start both of these for a long time. So hopefully this will encourage me to dive in on those. Plus, both of those are perfect because I believe that they're bigger books. They're a little bit chunkier than what I would typically reserve for a readathon, but Cassidy included some bonus points depending on how big the book is. That way you don't feel like you can only read short books, or that it's better if you read short books, because you'll get a lot of bonus points if you're still reading larger books, which I absolutely love. And it's gonna take a little bit of the pressure off because last year I read 40 books. And I felt like I had to read like a lot of novellas, which I discovered some great novellas, but I don't know if I'm quite in the novella mood. So I'm glad that she threw that in there. The last part of this readathon that I really want to touch on is reading a host fave. Now, I discovered something really cool, and that was when I was looking at the graphic of what the host fave recommendations are for this readathon. Riley and I have so many books in common. Well, here's the thing is I haven't read any of these, but they're on the top of my TBR. And I know of Riley, but I don't know why maybe I was subscribed to her on my old channel, but now that I use like my reading channel more, maybe I just completely forgot to resubscribe. Anyway, definitely subscribe to Riley Marie. Definitely excited to read one of these. So I'm leaning toward either The Last Housewife, because I remember when someone described it to me, I was like, oh my God, that's right up my alley, but now I don't remember what that was. Or A Dowry of Blood, which has been on the top of my TBR for a long time, and it is like a Dracula retelling, but it's about Dracula's wife, and I think she's writing letters to him about why she killed him. And I think it's sapphic and polyamorous. Come on. Literally right up my alley. And then another option though is Into the Drowning Deep, and this is by Mira Grant, which is Shauna McGuire. Shauna McGuire is one of my favorite authors of all time. And I have that on my Kindle, which again, perfect. But this is a chunkier book, but it is a standalone. And it might be like horror fantasy, which would be a hybrid genre. Could work out perfectly. Was there anything else? I believe that that's it. That's not all of the books that I plan on reading, because again, I am a mood reader and I'm sure that I will just pick up like random books here and there, move some things around to work out, but that is my tentative plan for the Magical Readathon and Realmathon and my vacation for the month of April. I am so excited. If you all enjoyed, consider hitting that subscribe button, pushing that thumbs up button. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, should plan out these ahead of time, but that would take planning skills. Sure, not my forte. Oh my gosh, leave a star emoji, since Star Seeker Whisperer, my God, Star Whisperer, I'll get it right at some point, okay, is going to be the career that I'm pursuing for the Magical Readathon. Let me know if you're participating in either one of these, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye!